Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. In this video, we're going to go over something that I didn't know happened. President Thomas S. Monson, he wrote a short editorial for the Washington Post. It was the 10th anniversary of 9/11, and I thought this was perfect, and I guess Pauline Fife thought it was too, because I've done a couple videos recently about all this smoke coming down from Canada and causing apocalyptic scenes in New York City and Washington, D.C., and Philadelphia, Ottawa, and other places where I tend to view it as a sign of the times. Why? Because hopefully those people that are kind of on the fence, that realize that there's going to be a second coming, and they know a little bit about the book of Revelation and other end times prophecies, when these kind of things happen, they look at it and they're like, and then maybe some part of them realizes what's going on, and it's probably designed to help wake them up. Um, and so, what's interesting, if you didn't catch my other video, is that President Hinckley, a month after 9/11, he said that Joel chapter 2, verses 28 to 32 had been fulfilled. Something that Angel Moroni said had not been fulfilled at the time he was talking to Joseph Smith. But as of October, as far as we know, it was in General Conference, President Hinckley said that it was fulfilled. About the sun being turned to darkness, the moon to blood, pillars of smoke, things like that, right? And that definitely happened back then. If you think about the skies over New York City at that time, but now it's like on a grander scale, and it's not man-made. This is, well, as far as we know, anyway. I guess that's debatable, but it's coming from wildfires, and the effect on the sky is much. It's grander. It's bigger. It's more in your face. I don't know how many times the sky has kind of changed like that since 9/11 until now. So if you know of any other time, let me know. But I think this is probably the most dramatic since that time. So that's why this is interesting. So before we get into what she said in her email, Pauline Five, and before we read the editorial, it's pretty short. Here's the update on the Book of Mormon Sharing Challenge, or the hashtag Flood the Earth Challenge. 5,938 copies of the Book of Mormon shared. Since the last time I updated it, there haven't been any new people that have joined the challenge, so hopefully that changes sometime today. I would encourage you to do this if you haven't already. And by the way, with the way that I'm doing my videos, whenever I share the update, it may be kind of out of order because I'm starting to do more videos. And the reason why is because I want to hit up a lot more topics than what I have been doing before. Also, there's been a lot of people requesting, for shorter videos, but that's been since the beginning of the channel. I just decided, you know what, let's do this, because as I research, I just keep coming across thing after thing after thing after thing, and I want to share it all. So that's going to necessitate smaller videos. So, and occasionally there will be longer videos. So if anything's out of order, it's because um, the way that I scheduled it does not follow the order in which I recorded it. So, but generally it'll be accurate. And then you can just pay attention to the date right here. But just in case you're wondering. Okay, so Pauline Fife, subject line, take another look at President Monson's letter to Washington Post. Hi, Jared. On the 10th anniversary of 9/11, President Thomas S. Monson responded to an invitation from the Washington Post to submit an editorial in relation to the anniversary, which he did. The whole letter can be read online on the Church News/Deseret News website. And then she provides a link. In the article, President Monson never specifically mentions the second coming, but his overall tone was, while optimistic in its extolling the unmitigated faithfulness of God toward us, not so optimistic about our nation, particularly noting our national negligence, passivity, and rejection of God's commandments that occurred all too soon after the shock of 9/11 subsided. When I read President Monson's letter at the time, what stood out to me was how characteristically, for cheerful President Monson, foreboding the message seemed, despite the positive affirmation upon relying on God at all times, not just in times of need. But then I realized that this message was tailored to the nation as a whole, and not the church per se. I found that sobering. I'm submitting this to you because the letter clearly conveyed a voice of warning to the nation, but without mentioning impending calamities. I think anniversary proclamations, letters, communiques, communiques. Okay, How do I mess that up? Communiques from the prophet or first presidency are highly relevant as signs and not to be taken lightly, as we are now witnessing yet another event overshadowing, literally, our nation's capital in the greatest city of the land. Yeah, yeah, well said. I totally agree. So, I missed this, and I don't know how many of you saw this. Let me know in the comments if you did. Let's see what he says. Okay, so we're in the church news section of the Deseret News website. President Monson responds to Washington Post invitation. The date of this is the 17th of September, 2011. So just barely over a year, over 10 years since it happened. Okay, in connection with the 10-year observance of the September 11th, 2001 attacks on America, President Thomas S. Monson was among 10 opinion leaders invited by the Washington Post to address a topic for publication in the newspaper's September 8th online blog on faith, a conversion on religion and politics. Heading the blog were these questions. What have we learned about religion in the past 10 years? What was the spiritual impact of 9/11? Besides President Monson, other respondents included the Dalai Lama, human rights advocate Desmond Tutu, former British Prime Minister Tony Blair, that's the one I haven't thought about in a long time, and T.D. Jakes, bishop and pastor of the Potter's House. President Monson provided the church news with this copy of his response. Okay, so, and it's dated on September 8th, 2011. The calamity, so this is him now. The calamity of September 11th, 2001 has cast a long shadow. 10 years later, many of us are still haunted by its terrible tragedy of lost lives and broken hearts. And you know what? I'm just going to say it one more time. I was in high school when it happened. I was in my senior year. And then in my uh what was it? In my late 20s. Yeah, was it? Yeah, in my late 20s, maybe when I was 30, I went to Afghanistan. Okay, this was a long time afterward. So it was weird for me to be in high school. All these years go by. And I guess it was basically 12 years later that I joined the Afghanistan war. And I was really upset on how it ended, as I know many of you were. And I did a video about that at the very beginning of this channel. It just, uh, what was it for? What did it do? Why? Just, I know I know it's a complicated thing. You can't oversimplify things, but it makes me upset. Okay, President Monson. It is an episode of anguish that has become a defining moment in the history of the American nation and the world. This week, the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, along with Tom Brokaw, will pay its own homage to the unforgettable events of September 11th, 2001. There was, as many have noted, a remarkable surge of faith following the tragedy. Yeah, I remember that. There was like just a sudden wave of patriotism and faith and everyone coming together. For a moment, it was a very beautiful thing until immediately afterwards, especially when the Iraq War took off, everybody lost their minds and decided to choose different political sides and be at each other's throats. Which, from my point of view, there's always been division, always, since Adam all the way till now. But in the United States, in particular, from my personal point of view, I feel like the real divide, like the biggest divide, happened after 9/11, as the cable companies started, you know, catering to their own audiences on opposite sides of the spectrum and just being vicious and horrible in stoking the flames. Yeah, there was division before, but not like there's been since 9/11. And I feel like things have just gotten worse and crazier since that time. Okay, people across the United States rediscovered the need for God and turned to Him for solace and understanding. Comfortable times were shattered. We felt the great unsteadiness of life and reached for the great steadiness of our Father in heaven. And as ever, we found it. Americans of all faiths came together in a remarkable way. Sadly, it seems that much of the renewal of faith has waned in the years that have followed. Healing has come with time, but so has indifference. We forget how vulnerable and sorrowful we felt. Our sorrow moved us to remember the deep purposes of our lives. The darkness of our despair brought us a moment of enlightenment. but we are forgetful. And let me just say, this event still like haunts me to this day. I remember watching it on the TV at school or on the TVs at school and coming home and just like being glued to the television. And I cannot believe like right now, it feels like right now, it's like almost completely forgotten, you know? Um, I don't know if that's just like a result of getting older, but like that was such a huge event. I've talked about some of the deeper implications, even getting into um, secret combination type things, which I do believe there's much more to what happened um, than what many people know. But it's just crazy. And, people are being born all the time. We have newer generations coming all the time. So that's part of it, I guess. But I think that this event in particular was highly significant when it comes to the second coming and the signs of the times. And it seems that President Hinckley saw it that way, probably through revelation, as he said that Joel chapter 2 verses 28 to 32 had been fulfilled, that prophecy had been fulfilled, and that was a major prophecy of the last days. When the depth of grief has passed, its lessons often pass from our minds and hearts as well. Our Father's commitment to us, his children, is unwavering. Indeed, he softens the winters of our lives, but he also brightens our summers. Whether it's the best of times or the worst, he is with us. He has promised us that we will never, or wait, he has promised us that this will never change. But we are less faithful than he is. By nature, we are vain, frail, and foolish. We sometimes neglect God. Sometimes we fail to keep the commandments that he gives us to make us happy. Sometimes we fail to commune with him in prayer. Sometimes we forget to succor the poor and the downtrodden who are also his children. Our forgetfulness is very much to our detriment. If there is a spiritual lesson to be learned from our experience of that fateful day, it may be that we owe to God the same faithfulness that he gives to us. We should strive for steadiness and for a commitment to God that does not ebb and flow with the years or the crisis of our lives. He should not require tragedy for us to remember him, and we should not be compelled to humility before giving him our faith and trust. We too should be with him in every season. And in this case, he's referring to the good times where tragedy is over and things are getting back to normal. We need to be steady and not just forget. The way to be with God in every season is to strive to bear. Oh my gosh, what is wrong with me right now? The way to be with God in every season is to strive to be near Him every week and each day. We truly need Him every hour, not just in hours of devastation. We must speak to Him, listen to Him, and serve Him. If we wish to serve Him, we should serve our fellow men. We will mourn the lives we lose, but we should also fix the lives that we can. Uh, the lives that can be mended and heal the hearts that may yet be healed. It is constancy that God would have from us. Tragedies are not merely opportunities to give him a fleeting thought or for momentary insight to his plan for our happiness. Destruction allows us to rebuild our lives in a way he teaches us and to become something different than we were. We can make him the center of our thoughts and his son Jesus Christ the pattern for our behavior. We may not only find faith in God in our sorrow, we may also become faithful to Him in times of calm. So, yeah, I get what she's saying here. A lot of times he does give a lot of cheerful. He was very like optimistic, like he had an optimistic air about him, and wasn't really so much about doom and gloom. Although, again, I would say each prophet is called for the time in which he is needed, and they have specific purposes. And so, instead of looking at it like, oh yeah, he preferred to be optimistic, and so prefers to be pessimistic, or whatever, that's not the case. It's what the Lord needs at that time, and so He calls a certain person to be there because that's what He wants at that time. Okay, so yeah, I think this was very serious. It was an address to the nation. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how many people read this, but the audience was at least nationwide. You know, you could say that the same thing is true of General Conference, but this is in a different format. This is a different platform in which he was speaking, where he may have reached people that otherwise he wouldn't have reached. So, yeah, it's significant. It's significant that he spoke on this, that he said what he did. There are warnings in that, and now here we are, 12 years after this thing that he did for the Washington Post, and now New York City has orange skies and a darkened sun and a red moon and a red sun whenever it's visible. All right, that's going to be it for this one. Thank you, Pauline Fife. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it. Leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also, make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.